All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Three Amigos podcast. All three of us are here. I am Chris, here with Frankie and Anthony as well. What's going on, guys?
Yo,
Hello.
yo.
And today we are talking about Gotham Knights, the new game coming from one of those companies that makes Batman video games. Not really
Warner
sure which
Brothers
one.
Montreal.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Wait, didn't they just get sold?
I don't know, but they did do Arkham Origins, so
No,
that
maybe
could
I'm
be
thinking
something
of
to.
Eidos Montreal.
Maybe.
Anyway, Gotham Knights just dropped a big old beefy gameplay trailer on us a couple days ago. And yeah, we want to talk about our first reactions, kind of how we're feeling about it, what our thoughts might be, positives, negatives. Fellas, you've had a chance to watch the
Mhm.
gameplay. How are we feeling?
Ant, why don't you go ahead? You guys have definitely played the games more than me. I've only played one and a half of them, so by all means.
I would say, okay, so I made this kind of like comment on another video I did where Marvel has all these different video games with different characters, but when it comes to DC, it's just Batman, and a lot of people have been wanting a Superman game for a while, and we still don't have that. And with this one, yeah, it's not Batman, it's the four sidekicks, which is an interesting concept. Um, Kind of like a GTA vibe thing where you get the multiple characters to play as.
Mhm.
But how many times are we gonna be back in Gotham? At least this one is it looks like a much bigger Gotham, which is great.
Yeah, it
Um,
looks pretty big. I mean, they like paused the gameplay briefly and showed the map, and it looked like there was a pretty big map.
so I missed that part in the video, but Um, I I'm for it in terms of like the story. Like, if you don't, for those of you who don't know, it's about the Court of Owls, which is a very interesting topic in Batman, and I'm interested to see what happens with it. I'm also interested to wondering, are we going to see certain characters returning, such as Joker make another appearance? These other well-known Batman villains. Two-Face. I don't want another Riddler thing where you got to find all the trophies, and I don't want that. The last one you have to find over 400 trophies and a whole bunch of different challenges. I don't want that. So that's my thoughts really right now until we talk more about it. But you guys can take it from there.
So angry.
That's it. Those are your thoughts. You don't want any Riddler trophies.
I don't want like a
I
lot
respect
of it.
it.
Like with
Oh
this whole city
man.
thing, because I know you guys mentioned earlier that the game looks last gen. I'm
Yes.
gonna say a couple things about that. Then, number one, it is still work in progress. So it could
Mm-hmm.
change, but it also could not change. There's the whole delays and COVID and all that thing. And I'm wondering if this follows into the trend of some games have good character models for the main characters, and everything else just looks a bit less quality. But there's also the aspect of, is the footage they capturing being displayed as it should on YouTube, like whatever I capture my gameplay, it looks nothing close to what I see on my screen. And when I upload it to YouTube, it's about the same thing. So that could be another thing to factor in. But hopefully it pays off. I'm more excited for this one than the Suicide Squad game. I'll say that. But I just want to see what each character has to offer. If there really is a huge difference in gameplay style for the characters, story has to be engaging. Villains that you face off has to be interesting. There was a previous gameplay back a few months ago or something like that with Mr. Freeze. So that
Yes.
was cool because Freeze was a badass in Arkham City.
It's like one of the
Uh,
best all-time
yeah,
boss fights in video games.
yeah.
That,
So hopefully,
that was a fun boss fight.
hopefully they
Yeah.
get to continue something with him or other characters to have something cool. But I'll pass it to you guys for now.
So with
Yeah.
me, my experience with WB games has been pretty limited, but overall, like I love Arkham City. Anyone who tries to compare like Spider-Man controls to Batman or any future games needs to like check themselves because it started with Arkham, the Arkham games. They're the ones that hit like these button sequences to like reversal or something like that. with
Yeah,
these
one button
combos.
combos,
Yeah,
free flow
exactly.
combat. Yeah.
Exactly. That started like I had some friends over and they were like, "Oh, they look this looks like Spider-Man one," and I've only seen you play Spider-Man. Well, no, no, no. This is not this is Spider-Man copied from WB Games, which is in a way like a good thing because if it's a good engine or a good form of gameplay, people should take note.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's returning. That's that gameplay, that game style. At first, when I'm the one that sent the video to you guys, and I was like pretty impressed. I love the combat. I love, it's the very classic WB Arkham combat. And what I really did like was like, oh, it gave me that Ultimate Alliance vibe. Whereas
Mm.
like you could do combos with people in those old classic Ultimate Alliance games. I'll send you some clips. It's really cool. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. Like Red Hood holding him down. Spoiler if you haven't seen the fucking video, go watch it.
Spoiler, he's also on the cover of the game. But yeah,
Exactly. No, spoiler because he's holding him down and you do this fucking epic combo. Wasn't expecting it. It was really cool. But
yeah.
then I watched it again today, literally not
Mm.
too long ago. And
Hmm.
and yeah, I could see the argument one of my friends was saying was like Arkham was it Arkham Knight looks better than
Hmm.
this. I'm like, really? And as I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the cutscenes with Dick and Todd. Yes, I was
Yeah.
just a child. um, it looked weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like this looks like it can go through rendering. And I'm really surprised you went the route of like COVID. You were tired of that excuse, so I'm proud of you for taking a different side there. But now I'll guess I'll switch sides and be a little bit harsher. I'm like, you guys have had quite some time on this game. There's been delays. Uh, I know there's going to be some rendering, but the main issue I think why we decided to do this is because they're the first few. They're their only company so far. I think that's been pretty vocal that they've canceled the last gen game, the last gen release. They're going to be strictly current gen, next gen, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of it's shitty. It's expected. I get it. But it's shitty that they said that and then they released this, and I'm like, this looks like it was ready for last gen. So that bothered me. And looking at it, like this does not look good. This doesn't look. I mean, not it doesn't look good for them. But from watching the stuff on video and on YouTube, it's like clearly it needs more polishing. But like this could have easily been for last gen. So I don't understand what the issue was. Like, why did you like? Is it strictly marketing and saving money? I don't know. That's something we'd have to ask the producers. They'll be on next week. Just kidding. It's just like it sucks and like seeing this I'm like, why would you even show this? Like everyone gets roasted. Like
Mm.
a lot of people get roasted, a lot of studios get roasted when they show alpha or what they consider close to really good gameplay. Like everyone shitted on Craig when Halo Infinite came out with that
Yeah.
gameplay. So like it's a double-edged sword. Everyone's gonna get you know sliced up with this double-edged sword about what's good and what's bad. So I found it very, very like funny to see like this is not really rendered very well. So
Hmm.
I obviously it's gonna take some time that before this game comes out, but like it did bother me because at first, like I think you even pointed out when we were talking during in our chat, it's like, yeah, this doesn't look that great. I'm like, really? I thought the gameplay looked smooth at some aspects, but then I saw when like Nightwing was like just gliding across the the on the rooftops fighting, not on the actual glider, but him like just kind of like jumping from villain to villain, bad guy to bad guy, and I'm like, oh, that looks funky. He that it I don't know, it left a really I guess indifferent now. At first I was excited. Now I'm like, this is I'm a little indifferent now. Like I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait to see more. Obviously, I'm not gonna buy this game day one because I don't do that anymore. So I need this game to win me over for me to actually continue playing Arkham games because it's been a hot minute since I played an Arkham game. I know Ant went through like his phase of trying to play those again, so that was kind of cool for him. I'm trying to do that at some point, but right now my focus is elsewhere. So yeah.
I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I didn't care about this game at all
Oh,
until I saw that trailer. I think it's good to remember that we don't always know what build they're currently working on versus what build we're being shown because it's usually a little bit ahead of whatever they showed us. The game still is 6 months out or 5.5 months out, whatever. That's worth mentioning. Decent amount of time. I guess on the current gen, last gen controversy, this game must have just not run at all on like the last gen consoles because it certainly looks like they developed the game to be on those consoles, but this is the same company that put out the that like separate Arkham game, right? It's like Warner
It is,
Bros.
yes.
Montreal.
They did the Origins game.
So that game was like riddled with bugs.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is like this is almost like a cyberpunk situation where like they tried running it on PS4 and they were like, this is not going to work. Like, we can't ship this. We can't fix this in 5 months. So let's just cancel it. Because even in the announcement of canceling it, they didn't make like a real announcement. They just put in the FAQs of like, oh, what is this game going to be coming out on? They were like, it'll be on PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. And like it won't come to last gen because we want it to run properly, basically, which is like them admitting it didn't run well. Um, I got to be honest. I don't really care about how the game looks because I think it looks good enough. And I feel like usually the Batman universe is going to be enough to carry the rest of the weight.
That's
Like,
fair. That's a fair assessment.
I'm going to play it regardless. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing that could keep me from wanting to play this game. It's like when Spider-Man comes out, like, going to want to play Spider-Man. I like superhero games, they're usually pretty fun. Um, I thought the combat looked a lot better than the first stuff they showed like a year ago, which just had like numbers, like RPG numbers coming off people when you'd hit them. And it was just like, I don't think they knew what they wanted the game to be
Mhm.
yet. So maybe it makes sense that they delayed it a bit. Um, I liked like what Frankie said. I like the combos with like multiple players. I am I am curious like how this game plays if you play it solo because they haven't really been clear in terms of like are certain levels or like story missions locked to certain characters or can you is every character going to be like shooting the cutscenes and then it depends who you picked, like is this like a level select or before you start a new chapter, so they haven't really explained that part of it. One thing I'm a little confused or worried about is that they haven't yet come out and said this is 4-player co-op because in both cases now they've highlighted two characters, and in the first gameplay they highlighted Robin and Batgirl, and this one they highlighted Nightwing and Jason Todd, who by the way, look, I don't read the comics, so I don't know what version of Jason Todd that is,
Yeah.
but that dude does not look anything like the versions of Jason Todd. Especially,
Beef.
look, this is just my opinion, but the
You mean
last
like
time we saw
under the
Jason
mask?
Todd in video games was Arkham Knight. I'm a
Yeah.
little surprised they didn't go with a character design that we would recognize a little bit.
It's funny because the one they used here, he kind of looks like Hawk from the Titans show a little
Yeah.
bit.
It
In
doesn't look great.
terms of the co-op thing, because I've seen a few videos of people talking about whether or not it would be 4 players, but I think the first gameplay they ever showed where it was primarily playing as Batgirl,
Yeah.
there was the scene where all 4 of them were like there running around that part of the city,
Yeah.
but it was so long ago, I don't remember if it was like if they mentioned it was going to be co-op or not. I assume it's going to be co-op 4-player since you have the 4 characters and we've seen them in action on the same screen before. So I don't know if they changed their minds or they just holding on to that information as if we don't already know or not, but
I don't know,
it
man. I
makes
mean, they
sense to
said
put 4-player.
they said 2 players in this most recent gameplay. So now I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe they couldn't get the 4-person thing to work. Like, I don't know. I like there's some performance stuff that I'm a little worried about, like canceling current gen after you. This is different than a game being announced and saying it's only coming to these consoles. Like they announced PS4 and Xbox One and all that, and then they pulled it back. So like something happened. Like some testing went on, and they were like, the 4-player thing isn't. We're like, we can't get it to run smooth. Like I don't know. I'm a little bit worried in that sense, but I think they picked a pretty cool, like Anthony said, a pretty cool storyline to follow. The Court of Owls hasn't really been explored in video games or movies for that matter in terms of like live action Batman stuff. So that's really cool. I think the idea of co-op in the Batman universe is really cool because I mean those 4 characters are all pretty awesome. I will say, Jason Todd looks a little boring. I'm going to be honest. And this is coming from, I was playing Darksiders Genesis. And in that game, one of the characters just uses guns. And it's really hard to make that interesting. Like, especially because the other 3 characters in this game are like athletic. Like they like Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl. And like Jason Todd, based on the gameplay, it's really just shooting and pistol whipping. Like that's his like no swords, not like
murder.
I don't know, man. Just guns. I know
What's
that's
funny,
his thing. It's just that like
funny thing, like in Injustice 2, you barely use a gun as Jason Todd in Injustice 2. And now that we can use the guns, it's kind of bland. Like it's kind of hilarious.
I think he's like a tough. Maybe he's like a really hard character to adapt into a video game. Maybe because like, although I guess in Arkham Knight, I think that's where the DLC was.
Yeah,
his gameplay in that was like, it was all right, I guess. I don't know. I still don't. I'm still not buying the whole like they recruited this guy who murders people, and he was like, "Don't worry, non-lethal." Wink. Like, really, Jason? You're gonna non-lethal all of a sudden? That's kind of surprising.
What's interesting to me is how each character travels the map.
Yeah.
Which funny thing in that video where Jason Todd is hopping through the air, you see the camera pan down towards the top of the building, and it's like either you wanted to show us the fight that was happening, which you couldn't really see it until you got there, or you're trying to hide some really bad frame rate from the distance.
Yeah,
because it was very strange how they did the camera turn, but the fact that he can hop almost infinitely in the air. Nightwing has that. I think it's a stupid glider. I don't like it. I think it's kind of dumb.
He has a wingsuit. Like in the comics, he has a wingsuit. Why would you not use
because the way they did it here was like weird, kind of like a Fortnite thing, Like
it just pops out from like his fucking universal pocket.
And then Robin's supposed to have like access to the Watchtower's teleportation thing, so he can teleport.
That's the dumbest one.
That tells me Batgirl's gonna have the standard glide and grapple, which I'm like, hey, I'm all for it.
I guess the grappling hook could be kind of cool if they're able to like sort of mimic Spider-Man web swinging.
Yeah,
I was gonna say there is something else that. Look, I'm trying to. I love Batman, and I love the Batman game, so I'm trying to stay positive here because seeing this new gameplay did get me excited. Like they showed me stuff that looked better than the first time. And I thought the combat looked pretty smooth. I'm reminding myself, this is not Rocksteady. So we're not getting the same quality here. So got to lower our expectations a little bit. The thing that I think has me the most nervous is that the city, and again, this could come down to a performance, like how is this game going to run? The city looks really dead. And like, they tried to explain it in the Arkham games a little bit, but even in Arkham Knight, the city had like, granted it was like criminals and cops, but it was, at least there were people in the, like, in Gotham City.
I wanted to make a comment about that since you reminded me, because I was looking through the gameplay. There was a part where I guess Red Hood is chasing down the truck.
Yes.
and you see like one person on the sidewalk with an umbrella, I think, and another person somewhere else. So I think they finally do have some civilians here, but it's like not a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I saw this video, I forgot what it was, but it was talking about how in some video games, when you have like, let's say Watch Dogs or Grand Theft Auto, the streets aren't filled with vehicles because you'd be crashing left and right. But
Yeah.
you take a game like Spider-Man, there's cars all over the city because you're not driving, you're swinging through the air.
Right.
So with this one, we know Gotham is a crowded city, and we know that even though it's a dangerous place, people still go out and do shit.
Yeah.
Do they?
So yeah, and then they get shot in an alley.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want
Two
to. I wouldn't want to do that either.
I'm just tired of these Batman games like not having any people. Like one of the problems with Arkham Knight that people had was, why am I saving this city when there's no one here to save? Like they all got evacuated. I'm just saving firefighters and cops. Like who cares? Like that's
Seems
what
like a
people felt
nitpick.
like.
I don't know. I feel
Well-
like that's a very big nitpicky thing. It's like, like I don't know. It's like saying like, oh, they're not using the right mask for Batgirl or for Robin or for Nightwing. I mean, it's like I think that's the least of the worries. I get like empty city for sure. Like if Spider-Man can do it, why can't these other games do it? Why can't they have civilians and other things and actual crime happening? I get it. It is a good critique, but like at the end of the day, it's like a little bit minuscule, and it's not from like I don't know, because like at the end of the day, we kind of don't know what this game is fully about unless it is going to follow the same formula from the previous game. So I don't know. So I'm not going to be too harsh on that myself. But I get it. Like empty city, like what's the point? I'm just going to be like wandering around. Like because at some point I did feel that in Arkham City. I was like, I'm just seeing the same criminals over and over again. But you could say that about the same thing for like any open type world game. You're just going to see the same NPCs over and over again.
It's just that this is like a thing this is a pattern with these Batman games now, is like the city's empty, which I mean, they're going to explain it away for a fourth consecutive game of like, or a fifth consecutive game of like, here's why the city is totally like, I mean, again, that comes back to like the performance issue stuff. Like NPCs make the game have to work harder to run properly.
Right.
So if this is being developed by a company that like didn't have the greatest performance track record, like maybe they again were just like, and that's something that you can add. They have 5 more months to like figure this out, but as in terms of like NPC density, but like yeah, I saw like those 1 or 2 people run away, I was just like, okay. I mean, we don't know how much of the game like takes place outside versus inside and like exploring. I will say the environments in this game look sick. They look absolutely beautiful. The reflections, the detail. One of the environments that they go into has like these marble columns. Stunning. Like the environments look so good. So from that perspective, it's going to make the game a lot more fun to explore. It's just that like hopefully the city feels sort of alive, just some more cars, a few more people, like just a little something. But I don't know. I will say overall, I think that this is headed in the right direction. I think
Yeah, I think so.
Not to everyone's like preferences, but compared to what we saw before and just like what they're showing and kind of the direction it looks like they want to go in,
Right.
it looks fun. Like at the very least, this game looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully it's fun with like a friend, and that's what that was the exciting part. It's like I would definitely want to play it with you guys. So that's what I was looking forward to, honestly, the most. Like, oh, this looks like it is going to be co-op, and hopefully deliver on more than just 2, but maybe 3 or 4 players. But that's something we'll see. Question for you guys: in the scene where like you see Jason Todd and Dick, did you guys think Mr. Grayson looked a little weird?
I was wondering why he was walking like Solomon Grundy.
Dude, was he not like hunched and like,
He's like hunched over? This is a guy who's like a fucking Olympic level gymnast. He's like,
I guess fighting crime made him like breaking his back a few times or something, jumping from roof to roof and landing on his back must have made him like just look so weird. He looks so lanky and like his reach looked really long.
I didn't want to get on them for that because that feels like one of those details where they're like, yeah, we're not really concerned with like we know that this doesn't look good, like we'll
Sure.
fix it. But
It looked
and I
funny.
will also say, like like going back to environments, that
Mhm.
watchtower area, wherever they are, looks pretty cool. Like I like the fact that you're gonna have like a little like center point for everybody to like
Like
hang
an
out in,
H,
and maybe
yeah,
there'll
like an
be some sort
HQ.
of yeah, and I don't know, like they haven't explained too much about this game, but like will there be a relationship thing? Like can you like
Mhm.
increase your relationship with certain characters and
Mm.
maybe that unlocks new combos? Like I really don't know how this is gonna work.
Yeah.
Um, there was one more point I wanted to make about the NPC density. They showed some combat on the roofs and
Yep.
some of like Jason shooting a truck or whatever. So, and again, I know I just said this is not Rocksteady,
Mhm.
but in previous games around this universe, even though it's a different universe according to them, there were usually a lot of enemies, like an overwhelming amount of enemies that you're
Yeah.
supposed to fight. So much so that they dedicated, like Rocksteady dedicated certain parts of the game to just challenge maps, which is literally
Mhm.
just you beating people up. In all of the sequences they showed, at most you were fighting like 4 enemies, which like if this is a 2 to 4 player game, and these are like some of the most skilled combatants in the Batman universe, it seems kind of surprising that there aren't 10 bad guys on the roof, 12 bad guys, at like 4 bad guys. I mean, those are going to be some pretty quick combat sequences, especially if you're playing with friends. So again, it just goes back to like something it went on behind the scenes with this game. There's a reason
Yeah.
they canceled the last gen versions. I'm a little worried that it's because the game was too ambitious. Maybe the city was too big. They couldn't figure out how to fill it with enough NPCs and
Mhm.
people to fight and whatnot. But it's just another one of those little things that I'm like, I have to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. I'm like, usually, like, you're being almost overwhelmed because of enemies. So,
Yeah.
and there's two of you now, so there should be double of what you're usually used to getting overwhelmed with. But I
I
don't know.
mean,
So
We could make a whole episode on that.
2 points I wanted to make. I'm looking at the video now, and the scene where he's chasing the truck and the motorcycle, within one really long block, there's 5 NPCs, most of them on one side of the road. The other thing I want to mention is hoping that we see a lot more Easter eggs. Like right here, he's passing a Daggett building, which is from John Daggett, which is another
mhm.
rich guy in Gotham. But with the co-op thing as well, is it going to be you have to be within close proximity of each other throughout the whole time you're playing together? Or can I just go to one side of the city, you go to another, and we just meet up later on and stuff like that?
I think
Mm,
so, because in one scene, in the rooftop scene, like you could see Jason Todd, Red Hood, like going further ahead, and you just see like the little like uh I guess insignia, whatever thing to identify that this player is over here. So I feel like you could like in theory, like if you're playing online, you get your full screen, and it just tells you
Right.
like where your teammate is at.
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
for
I'm
sure.
looking forward to it. Like Frankie said, we don't pay $70 for games these days. That's too fucking expensive. Especially when it's like a game that we're not super certain about how it's gonna run.
Yeah, yeah.
I can already see like day one patch, 1 month in patch, like all that kind of stuff. Hopefully it lives up to the hype that other people have. I don't really have hype for this game. I'm just like, oh, new Batman content, like sick. Looking forward to trying it out. But if the game comes out and it's just kind of average, that's probably gonna be enough for me because I just like Batman stuff and the combat looks fun. And like when we played Ultimate Alliance 3, I had fun with that game. Like I
Yeah.
know some people didn't think it was that great, but when we were playing it together, I was like, yeah, this is kind of all I was looking for was like
Hmm.
pick different characters and learn the moves and like team up. And I was like, all right, this was fun. So if it meets that level for me, then cool.
Well, hopefully we get like I don't know if they're doing like a gear system or you can unlock other costumes like classic costumes, but I think it's a gear system. So I'm not really too fond of that in certain games.
It looked like different costumes would give you different benefits, like not
Yeah.
specifically like, oh, new gauntlets, new pants, new like top. It looked like, oh, you unlocked this costume that is going to give you plus whatever on all this stuff. See how this all turns out. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This was a bit of an emergency episode because this new gameplay kind of set the internet ablaze as people had a lot of different hot takes on how this game is looking. We are all still reasonably excited, but maybe a little bit cautious. Just kind of want to see how this turns out. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Three Amigos podcast. We're trying to be consistent. We're giving you multiple episodes a week. This is amazing.
Shout out
Progress
Brazil.
for us. Progress, fellas. And that's all we got for you guys today. Peace out.
Peace.
Later.